Okay. David Holtgraewe is Chief Operations Officer for Heart of Missouri United Way. He served as campaign director for United Way for almost 20 years. Previously, David was with JCPenney for more than 16 years in various management positions and account manager for Image Technologies of Missouri for 2 years. David has a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from Missouri State University. David, we're very glad to have you with us.
Thank you very, very much. And for Andrew Grayball, who was initially supposed to speak with you all, who is our president and CEO, he does give his apologies, but he has been out all week due to an illness and that. So getting better, I think, but just not quite up to doing this today. So I'm filling in for him. So I thank you for having me. I see a lot of familiar faces and names on here, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, but just kind of give you an update of what your Heart of Missouri United Way does and is up to, and the agencies that we fund in that. One thing I always like to express is United Way is local. We belong to an organization called United Way Worldwide, but that's a voluntary thing that we belong to. But they do provide us services in that are very valuable to the work that we do in that. So our United Way, the Heart of Missouri United Way, serves 3 counties, Boone, Cooper, and Howard County. And this 2021 was actually our 75th anniversary here in Columbia. So we've been here for a long time. We've been doing a lot of great work in that, but that is due to all the great volunteers that provide their time and service and talents to United Way. Just to give you a sense of how many people we touch, last year, or between July of 2019 and December of 2021, funding to our United Way agencies provided 63,000 units of service to people in these 3 counties. So it is a lot of people that are touched by donations from local people. All the decisions that are made as to agencies that we fund, how much we fund them, the purpose of this local United Way, and that are all made by a local board of directors. We have approximately 30 members on our board of directors each year. They do roll off after a 3-year cycle. This year, currently, Mike Ireland, who is with the Bank of Missouri, is the board president. And you just met Erica Neville, who is our vice president and anticipated to be the president of the board when we make a change in April of this year. Your Heart of Missouri United Way in 2022 will fund 31 local health and service organizations. They are all local. All of the work that they are doing is local. But when I say that we fund the agencies, we actually fund programs within the agencies. So we fund 45 different programs. So as an example, with the food bank and that, we don't fund all of the work that the food bank does. We fund certain things like the Buddy Pack program and the local food bank center where people go and pick up their food and that. So there's certain things that we fund within these agencies. The funding that we give these agencies on an annual basis account for anywhere from about 2% of an organization's annual budget, all the way up to about 75% of it. So we're providing funding to some really big organizations like the food bank, and then to some much smaller ones like Fun City Youth Academy. So the need of the funding from United Way to these organizations, it can be drastically different based on how much of their budget we account for. The one thing about United Way, and that I've consistently heard over my 20 years from the agency executive directors, is that United Way funding is that one funding that they can count on every month. So we do provide, based on their annual allocation, monthly checks to each one of these agencies based on the amount that the board has approved for them to receive in that. United Way, all the funding that we raise is all local. We do not receive any kind of funding from any governmental organization, not federal, not state, or local. It all comes from individuals and companies and a few foundations here in the mid-Missouri area. Probably very familiar with these two names. Mike and Rocky Alden have been the 2021 community campaign chairs, and they have done a phenomenal job. Our campaign for 2021 will actually wrap up traditionally on the 31st of January. So January 31st of this year, we will kind of wrap up the 2021 campaign. The goal of the campaign was to raise $3 million. I can let you know it right now at this point in time, we have raised $2,950,000, and we are projecting that we are going to exceed the $3 million goal that we had for the campaign. We have not announced that to the public yet, so keep it close to your chest if you don't mind. But Mike and Rocky have just done a phenomenal job pouring their heart and soul and talents into the campaign. For 2022, come February 1st, we start all over again and begin the 2022 campaign. And DeMarco and Adonica Coleman, who you may be familiar with, will be the 2022 campaign chairs. And we do have the campaign chair lined up for 2023 also. That will be Susan Hart, who many of you may be familiar with. One thing about United Way that's kind of unique is that 85% of all the funds that we raise for the Heart of Missouri United Way come through what we call company employee campaigns. We have about 150 companies that allow us to come in and make presentations to their employees. And then those employees have the opportunity to give to United Way and/or can designate to one of our 31 funded agencies. So most of them give through payroll deduction, but there's many other ways that they can do as cash check charge, stock gifts, and different things like that. So 85% of the funds come either from the employees in these companies or the companies themselves. The other 15% is comes from what we consider residential, or people that are giving that do not work for a company or maybe retired or something. This past year, we had about 5,000 individual donors to United Way. So it's a large group of people that are supporting our work and supporting these agencies. And we are a volunteer-driven organization. We have a staff of about 10 people traditionally, but last year, there were about 700 volunteers that worked on the campaign alone. That's outside of all of our other programs that we do in that. So it is truly a volunteer program that we put on to raise these funds and that. So then the question kind of becomes, what do we do with the funds? Well, United Way kind of made a major change about 10 years ago. Back in 2012, we rolled out what was called Community Impact. And Community Impact kind of changed the way we did business. And it started to look at what are the key major issues in our community and what can United Way and all of our partners do to improve or to solve these particular issues that our community was focused on. So what we do now is we put out proposals to people, our RFPs to agencies, to provide a program, a solution to what is one of our targeted issues that we are focused on. We do this on a kind of a 3-year cycle. So we just in October did our funding cycle for education. So any of the agencies that are trying to solve issues that will help certain targets such as 3rd grade reading, high school graduation, different things as far as education. Those agencies applied for funding in October, and the decisions were made throughout the course of November and December. So we were able to announce the largest amount that we're ever going to give to the education-related agencies. So over the course of the next 3 years, we will be providing these agencies collectively $750,000 each year. That's in the area of education. We also have one of our targeted areas is the healthcare. And that in 2020, we announced also the largest amount that we were ever going to give to the health-related agencies, where we made a 3-year commitment to them to give them $1 million each year for the next 3 years. And now this year in October, we will do the funding for what we call the financial stability or basic needs agencies, which would be ones that would fall in that, might be like the Salvation Army, the food bank, different ones of those that are more directed, Love Columbia, that are directed to help people financially improve and also to provide basic needs services to help their immediate needs in that. So that was another big change that we made in 2012 when we moved to this community impact. Up to that point, the agencies had to apply for funding each year, which is a lot of work for them to do. So we changed it to a 3-year cycle, especially because some of these issues that our community is dealing with take a long time to see measurable change. And that's the other thing about United Way. We really focus on data and measuring positive, measurable impacts in that. We have a committee that called the Community Impact Committee, which is led by Mitzi Clayton, who is with the University of Missouri. Maria, who I believe is on here, used to oversee this group for us when she was on our board of directors. And Erica, who you met just a few minutes ago, she was the Community Impact Committee chair a few years ago too. And I will say this, Erica was also our campaign chair along with Jim Spain at the University of Missouri last year in 2020, or the previous campaign. So this Community Impact Committee puts out requests for agencies to apply for funding, depending on what that 3-year cycle is, like education this past year. They get all these applications from these agencies, they review the applications, they review their finances and governances to make sure that everything is adequate for the standards of United Way. And then they do site visits with these agencies. And then the whole committee comes back collectively and talks about what the agencies are trying to do, how they believe that they can help to improve some of the situations in our community. And then that committee makes a recommendation to the board of directors on which agencies to fund on that given year, and then also how much they are going to be funded. At the end of the day, it is the board of directors that makes the final decisions on that. Everything is data driven though, and we were very blessed a few years ago. Some process improvement engineers at 3M here in Columbia put together a program for us that helps us look at key metrics, key data, and kind of gives a grading system on how these agencies that are applying for funding are doing, and kind of looks at it over the course of that 3 years and that. So again, it's kind of the community all coming together to make as best decisions as we possibly can. The one other thing that we do is we belong to a group called the Boone Impact Group, and this is a group of funders in our community, which is the city, the county, and the United Way. So back in 2012, this group formed, and the purpose of it is to make the highest quality decisions on the agencies that are providing services in our community related to health and human services. So we all use what's called an apricot. It's a system where these agencies put their data into, and it also is where they go to apply for funding from the city, the county, and Heart of Missouri United Way. Prior to apricot, these agencies had to fill out a separate application for funding for each one of the 3 entities that provides funding to them. So now they can go to this apricot system, put their data right into it, and then also apply one time for whatever funding that they are looking for. The other thing that came out of this partnership is what's called a community indicators dashboard. and it is managed kind of by the city, the county, United Way, and the University of Missouri. So what it is for all of these agencies and organizations to put data into so that we can make quality decisions based on all of these data points as to what programs are seeing measurable change and what adjustments we need to make, and just helps us to make quality decisions. Couple other notes. I guess United Way, one thing that I always want to clarify is United Way does not fund individuals directly. We fund the agencies that provide the direct services to the individuals. The one kind of exception to that is a program we started last year, which is Read Across Columbia. And that is a program where we provide books to kids from kindergarten to second grade in 5 of our Columbia public schools that have the highest rate of free and reduced lunch, but also the lowest test scores in that. So we are providing age appropriate and inclusive books to these children to try and help improve their reading scores and their overall academic success in that. One other thing that United Way does with our partner agencies, our funded agencies, is we provide capacity building. We have one person on staff that all she does is work with the agencies to help them with any challenges that they might be having, provide recommendations, and in some cases connect them with other individuals in our community that can provide specific skills in that, in many cases pro bono to these agencies and that. So we're always trying to improve ourselves and also improve the work that our agencies are doing. One other thing we do with our agencies is once a week, every Friday, all of the agency executive directors and Andrew Grayball, our president and CEO, have a joint call on Friday mornings just to talk about any issues that are going on, any things that the agencies want to share, just to kind of keep us all working together and rowing in the same direction in the boat, I guess you would say. One other service that United Way provides is 211. And this is an information and referral service for anybody that they or someone they know may have a certain need that is health and human service related. We kind of say that if you need something with a red light, ambulance or police or firemen, you call 911. But anything else health and human service related, call this 211, which is a statewide program that is managed by the United Way in Greater St. Louis. But they keep track of all of the agencies in the state of Missouri, what services they provide, and what kind of funding they might have available for certain needs at any given time. So we often refer individuals to this 211 service. Consistently, the top 2 things that are generally requested through 211 are rent and utility assistance, which is probably no surprise to anyone that's here on this call. I will just share a couple of stats based on where we were in 2012 and kind of where we are in either 2019 or 2020, based on how current the data is. But 2012 is when we moved to this community impact model. And that's where we started closely looking at this data and to see if we were going to have measurable change. So in 2011, the year before we started, in Boone County, childhood poverty was at 18%. Because of the community working together in 2019, it was down to 13%. Obviously, we still have a long way to go, but in a few short years, we were able to change that by 5% to improve the financial situation for many of these children. The other one, which I mentioned earlier, was third grade reading. Why is that so important? It's schools really focus on teaching the kids how to learn up through third grade, but after that, they kind of expect the children to be able to read, to be able to continue their educational success. And a child that's reading proficiently at 3rd grade will be 6 times more likely to graduate high school than if they were not reading proficiently in 3rd grade. So in 2012, 47% of the kids in Columbia Public Schools were reading proficiently. 56% of the white children were reading proficiently in 2012, but only 16% of the African American children. So there was this large gap, and that's when we started focusing programs to help all children, but in some cases specifically certain population groups, so that we could narrow that academic achievement gap in that. And I will say this, last year, 90% of the kids in United Way funded kindergarten through 3rd grade education programs, 90% of those kids, kindergarten to 3rd grade, were reading proficiently at grade level. So many of these kids attending United Way funded services are the most at risk, but yet they are showing a almost double success rate of the general population of children in Columbia Public Schools. So these agencies are doing a remarkable job helping these children read proficiently and improve their educational success. The other thing that we're watching is graduation rates. In 2012, 84% of the eligible kids graduated from Columbia Public Schools. In 2020, that was 90% of the kids are now graduating from Columbia Public Schools. And for the last 7 years, that has been anywhere from 88 to 98% of the kids are graduating each year. So we've seen a measurable change, and it's been a consistent change. They continue to have good success. And within that, the children that have seen the greatest measurable change are our African-American children, students in our Columbia Public Schools. In 2012, when we started measuring this, 68% of the African-American children who were eligible to graduated from Columbia Public Schools. As of 2020, that is up to 79%. So we've seen an 11% improvement in the graduation rate for our African-American children. That's kind of about what all I have to share. I just wanted to give you a little glimpse of what United Way is, that we're volunteer driven, that we're local, all the decisions are made local, and all of the agencies that we fund are local.
See, Sue and Herb have the name. Oh, Kathy, I'll let you run it.
That's fine, Sue and Herb. Sue and Herb.
We can't
think
hear
you're on
you,
mute.
Sue. A lot of money collected through Como Gives. And at the end, I'd like you to answer whether you think it hurts or helps. I will say, from my point of view, I associate with one organization, the Rockbridge Friends Group, that the Como Gives is being highly successful for many of us in these different organizations. But you are hitting the core group. One of the things that when I look through things as who's getting the money, a lot of it are artsy things or their pets. And you're getting at the humans part. And I think both are important. But anyway, do you think it's helping or hindering you? Or do you think it's just making us all give more money?
I think overall that collectively it is raising more money for the community. So that is a good thing. And as you mentioned, they fund pretty much any 501c3 nonprofit organization that wants to be part of Como Gives. So I think this past year there were 147 organizations in it, where we fund specifically 31. The unique thing about, Como Gives is you're given directly to that agency, and it's not a collective effort. And that's the unique thing about United Way, is to see measurable change for individuals in our need collectively as 31 organizations. No one of these organizations can probably solve the complete situation that an individual or family are in need, but collectively we can provide good services, wraparound services that will help them move up and in many cases out of poverty in that. So I don't think it's hurt United Way, our ability to raise funds and that. I'll be honest, we started to participate as an agency in Como Gives 2 years ago because, all in all, it's more options, more opportunities for people to give. I would say in our case, it has definitely brought, I can't say this exactly, but I don't have data yet for this year, but in 2020, the first year that we participated, we had about 100 new donors to United Ways, folks that had not given prior to that, people that maybe aren't working within companies. And I go back to United Way, our primary way of raising money is through these company and organization campaigns. So this is given kind of another avenue for people to give in that. So
well, I want to thank you. I should say that your presentation today made me realize that yours is definitely the more of the heart of what I want to give.
thank you.
David Mallory, and then Carlin
Yeah,
and
I've got a
Mark.
quick question, David, regarding the apricot program. That sounded interesting, where you all partner with the city and the county. You said agencies will make one application to this group. Do you all, I assume that application includes how much they need for this particular need, how much money. Does your group then, if you decide to support them, split that amount between the three of you, or do you decide, okay, we'll handle this one, you handle the next one? How does that work?
United Way is only making funding on the programs that we're going to fund within these agencies. So city, county, and Heart of Missouri United Way all have their kind of own pot of money, and they make the decisions on what programs they are going to fund in that. So when United Way makes a decision, we're not making it for all three, but we can make higher quality decisions because we know what the city and the county are funding. And so we're not going to duplicate funding of a program when another program might have needs too. That, if the city and the county have money for something and they're able to fund certain programs, let's use United Way money in a different place where we can see measurable change. But it does give the agencies one place to put all their data too, so that, and I didn't talk about taxonomy, but we worked with the university in that when we first rolled out this Boone Indicators Group or Boone Impact Group to come up with common language. So XYZ agency is kind of asking the same questions, collecting the same data as another agency and that. And so when we're looking at the services they're providing, we know what that service is and how the results that that agency is having compares to another agency because they're using the same language now. Believe it or not, that was about a 3-year process to get everybody using the same language so that we can make those quality decisions. I know Mari's on here. Mari's been very involved in this. So, howdy.
I would just like to reinforce what you were just talking about about big. I think from the agency's point of view, it has been miraculous to have one way of applying for funds for each of these agencies and what kind of one-time data entry for all the nitty-gritty information that goes into a grant application. So I think that's been a great thing. I just wanted to emphasize the leadership role that United Way plays in the community. And you've talked about a lot of that. You've talked about convening the nonprofits together on a weekly basis as kind of a information exchange and in some sense a support group for each other, that has helped them make connections that didn't exist before. So that if they have a question about something or they're thinking of doing something new or different, they can contact their peers and they know their peers. I think the capacity building is such an important thing because there's so many nonprofits that start out with someone who's extremely committed to a cause, but some of them are very small and some of them don't have the technical expertise in things like budgeting or outreach, how to promote their programs, that kind of thing. Those are all really, I think, valuable services that United Way provides. And then I also wanted to just mention that I think that the United Way serves a kind of unique role because of its outreach to within the employment setting, so that people learn about and are kind of established with an expectation of charitable giving from the time they start their careers. And they have an opportunity to get more actively involved. Maybe you could tell a little more about the Loaned Executive Program, because I think that's really neat. But it also kind of regularizes giving, so people can sign up to have a certain amount, as I did all the time I worked, have a certain amount taken out of their paycheck each month. It becomes just a routine part of life. And I think that's really important. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you to mention a little bit is the equity work that United Way does, being the equity fund. So.
Sure. So as far as equity goes, yes, United Way is trying to raise the awareness of inequities in our community and to try and tear down some of these barriers that might be long entrenched in communities and different systems and that type of thing. So we started what's called an equity challenge about a year ago now. It's a 7-week program where individuals can sign up for kind of a weekly thing that is emailed to them that provides them different information and different articles and different things like that as far as IDE goes, to help us all collectively understand certain challenges and barriers that are there. We also had 2 of our staff members that have made themselves available to do individual presentations to companies that are interested in providing information to their employees about IDE and that. So, we're just trying to, as with many things, raise the awareness in the community and try to be a leader and collective of solutions to make all things equal or at least equitable for people in our community.
Okay, I see a question in the chat, which I just lost. It is, what are the educational programs that United Way supported that helped improve the reading levels?
Well, many of our after school, weekend programs, and over the summer programs, such as your Boys and Girls Club, your Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Fun City Youth Academy, United Community Builders, Grade A Plus, and that. They provide, minimally, these children have to do 1 hour of education, reading, math, whatever it is, when they go to these organizations after school, over the weekend, and that type of thing. I'll use one, Grade A Plus. They partnered with University of Missouri and has a bunch of students that are tutoring children in STEM type programs and that, and recently was recognized nationally for the work that they are doing, in that case, to improve math skills of children that they are working with. So, it's just a lot of after school mentoring, helping the children. Many of these children that are going to after-school programs especially, their parent might not be at home at that time because many of those parents are working 1 or 2 or in some cases 3 jobs to make ends meet, lower income jobs and that. So these children, they have a safe place to go, they get a hot meal, and they have to do at least 1 hour of educational work in that. And then the Read Across Columbia program, where we're specifically putting books into the hands of children that are most at risk of falling behind academically. And it's not just books, but it's age-appropriate books and it's inclusive books. So it gives an African-American child an opportunity to see a book that is either written about or the pictures in it or of other African-American children or individuals in that. So it just helps increase their desire to learn and to grow.
Pam has her hand up, and then Sue and Herb.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that I had your title correct because I had you down as CEO, and I think that was Andrew.
That is correct. He is the CEO.
Hey.
I'm now the Chief Operations Officer. So,
COO. Okay.
CEO, that is correct.
Okay. We are recording this and it will be on our website. So I wanted to make sure that it was correct. And then my other question was, you get the librarians at the public library to help you decide which books to donate?
Both the library and CPS. We do not order any books of that until we've had several of those key partners, especially since the books with the 5 schools are going directly to CPS children. We want to make sure that CPS is in agreement with the books and that so it is a process that we go through to make that decision.
Very good.
We distribute the books to these children twice a year. So on average, they get 10 to 12 books on an annual basis.
That's wonderful. Good.
Sue and Herb.
Thank you very much for your service, your longstanding service to the organization and the organization. Thank you also to the organization. I was glad to hear also about some of the things that you're doing on behalf of mathematical literacy, which sometimes takes second fiddle to verbal literacy and enthusiasm and teaching supporters, but it's equally important. Question I had, think back to 2010 and 2012, when we were talking as a community about the future of the United Way. And there were a couple of things that I thought emerged from that as clear focus. One was going to try to prune the number of entities to which one directly transferred funds. 2, that the focus would be concentrated upon children and young people. Am I correct in this? And if I am, how is that working? How comfortable are you with that concentration within the whole panoply of things that some want done? And do you plan to keep going in those that along those 2 lines? Small number of recipients, emphasis upon childhood and youth issues.
Sure. When we rolled it out, our agencies serve individuals of all ages in that. But it is true that at that point in time, because so much of the data that was making these decisions was showing that the children living in poverty was one of the greatest challenges our community had. So a greater emphasis as compared to previously was probably put onto educational, finance, and health as far as the children in that under the age of 18 and that. But we still serve individuals of all agencies. When I say we, our agencies still do. So, but for that reason that the kids were the most challenged at that time, that is why we put the emphasis there. up through 2019, we've seen some good results in that. You know, coming out of COVID, when we come out of it, we're going to have to look at the data and see if there's been changes to that. But I can tell you at this point in time, from what I know, there's no, I don't anticipate any change of direction of what we are currently doing right now, as far as types of agencies and programs that we're funding that.
Pam, do you have another question?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, okay,
I need to put I'll put it down.
okay. Well, I just wanted to follow up on what Mari said. Having worked in social services for more than 30 years, you know, it was such a strain to seek funding. It was so labor intensive and time intensive. And I think the 3-year funding cycle, the focus on impact, all of those changes are just marvelous. And the collaboration that you're doing here in this area with the city and the county, it's just such a boon to really being able to address the things that need attention, rather than spending so much time on just finding the funds to do so. And I really am very excited to hear about the changes that have been made and the United Way's leadership in this. And I just want to commend you for that. I think it's marvelous.
Thank you. We're blessed with a lot of great volunteers that put in a lot of time and talent.
What other questions or comments do we have?
I think there was a question about the loan program and how many people is that a couple of people a year or something, or how does it work?
Loaned executives?
Yes.
That's correct.
Loaned executives?
Yes, it is a loaned executive program, and it is a program where companies or organizations provide what is generally a lower to mid-level manager to United Way for a 5-week period of time during either the month of September or the month of October, basically during the heat of our campaign. The vast majority of our campaigns occur kind of in that time frame. So these individuals come to us, we give them all kinds of information and training about what United Way is, but also what the agencies are doing. We take them out on tours of the agencies, or during COVID, some of those were done by Zoom and that, to introduce them to the executive directors and the folks that are doing the great work. But they also, their primary reason is to raise awareness in our community about the issues and challenges and successes, but then to also ask the employees and companies for financial funding of United Way in that. So these past 3 years, we've had anywhere from 7 to 9 loaned executives from different companies throughout Columbia specifically. The most we've ever had was kind of back before 2008, when we had that big market drop. Back then, we used to have about 12 or 13, but 7 to 9 is about the average now.
Well, tell us more about how you work in Cooper and Howard counties, how the campaign there is handled and so
Sure.
on.
There are a few organizations. I'll say this, in Howard County right now, we do not have any campaigns going. In Cooper County, there are half a dozen organizations that run employee campaigns, such as Caterpillar is one of them. School district runs a campaign, a few other companies in that area. Technically, right now, in 2022, we do not have an agency with a footprint in Cooper County that we are funding, but many of the residents of Cooper and Howard County use the agencies that Heart of Missouri United Way funds. I'm going to be honest, we traditionally have had agencies in Cooper County, and I think that's a goal to kind of identify and reestablish some agencies in Cooper County. But right now, we do not have any. And that was kind of their own self-decision when we moved to community impact model.
Thank you. Sue and Herb?
If I could add to that, David, although we've not made a funding recommendation to an agency based in Cooper County, I believe that in this latest round, we are going to be funding, I'm sorry, Artemis United Way is going to be funding CMCA to provide some services in Cooper County. And since CMCA covers I think a 9-county area perhaps, there are some services being funded there, but it's not an agency that's actually based there. So.
Thank you. Yes.
I guess I'll have to catch up on that. The Community Action Agency used to have local offices in every county of the 8 counties that were served here in central Missouri. So I'll have to give them a call and find out or maybe you know what's going on.
I think they may still.
I'm sorry?
Well, I think they may still have, I think they still have a local office. I'm just saying that they're not, if you look up the corporate address of CMCA, it's here in Boone County. But yes, I think they do have a local office in Booneville. And the program that United Way is going to funding will actually be delivered through a couple of school districts in Cooper County. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, Herb and Sue.
Don't mean to monopolize here, but everybody knows that I'm just full of questions. Indeed, I have a question mark in myself. But anyway, I'm going to give you a chance to puff out your chest and talk about what I hear is quite a good reputation among United Way operations, and talk about the ways in which you think you have set good examples and are having some leadership beyond the boundaries of this organization's geographical purview.
Sure. Well, definitely as far as equity goes, this past year we've gotten a number of accommodations for the work that we're doing in the area of equity. And LaToya, was a fellow with United Way Worldwide based on her equity and marketing work that she was doing in that. As far as community impact goes, not all United Ways do community impact. We were one of the first 15% of United Ways, and definitely at that time was one of the smaller United Ways that jumped on board on this community impact model, which looks at these larger community issues and tries to partner with community organizations and individuals that can help make that change. I can tell you the Loaned Executive Program, I think that our United Way is one of only 2, maybe 3 that still have a program. I know we do, and the United Way in Greater St. Louis does. I've often had other United Ways that call me and ask me how this Loaned Executive Program works, because we truly see it as a win-win-win. The individual becomes a much stronger community partner. The company, gets this employee back that is even more broadly community knowledgeable, and then it helps to raise the funds for United Way. And then one other one that I'll talk about is the University of Missouri. University of Missouri is consistently one of the top employee groups of a university giving back to their local United Way. The amount of funding that the employees give is consistently very high. So we often have other United Ways or universities themselves calling and asking about the structure of the United Way campaign at the University of Missouri and that. Those are a few that come to mind. Sorry.
David Mallory, I see your hand up.
Yes, just another, expand on the Loaned Executive. Having worked at shelter insurance myself for many years, I never served as a loaned executive myself, but I heard from several of those who did participate in the program You mentioned they come on board and you do a lot of training and take them out to agency sites, if I remember. So it was just a mind expanding opportunity for them, the way they talk. What else do they do once you've got them trained, once you've got them, these loaned executives, that they go and meet all these agencies? What do they do to help your agency?
Sure. To help United Way, they go out and they are each assigned somewhere between 35 to 50 accounts. And when I say accounts, these are companies or organizations that either have already agreed to run an employee campaign, or these loaned executives are trying to encourage these companies or organizations to run a campaign. Once that company or organization is on board to do so, then that loaned executive kind of works with them as an account manager to give them best practices in that, to give them any kind of supplies that they might need, whether that's hard copy or virtual. And then also the loaned executives go in and do the majority of the presentations to the employee groups. We often have them there along with one of our agency executive directors. And kind of that loaned executive gives the broad brush of what United Way does, and then kind of turns it over to the executive director of an agency and that person then talks about the work of their agency and how important the partnership is with United Way.
Thank you.
And Sue and Herb?
I have a different question. When we retired, I was rather surprised. I hadn't paid attention in my own mind how much it was employer driven. And I will say, when I first started working in Jeff City, I intentionally, because the money was only going to Jeff City, and I knew Columbia provided more social services than Jeff City. So I intentionally said, I want this to be a donation to United Way, but I definitely want it to go to Columbia. So, but my bigger thing is, are you going to try to collect more from the general public? If so, how? And why not also adding that?
I would say that yes, we are, and Como Gives is one of those ways that we can do it. I'm going to be honest, at the end of the day, it's all about time and enough people to do it. So kind of back in the 1950s is when unions became very popular or bigger, and they were very much committed to United Way, unions within companies and that. And so we started to put all our emphasis there, I guess you would say, because it was easy to go in and make 1, 2, or 3 presentations to this large group of employees, a lot of them union within these companies and that. So we kind of put our focus there, but now I'm going to be honest, individual relationships are becoming much more important again in that. So as an overall United Way worldwide organization, and this United Way, we are for a long time still, I think these company campaigns will still be the meat and potatoes of what we do as far as raising funds, but we are trying to shift to do more individual relationship and fundraising in that. So but I will just be honest, it's more time than anything that has kept us from doing more of that individual reach, I guess you would say.
Maybe
I
we
think
could
they
do that.
have had some fundraisers, the chef challenge, whatever that was called, and about once or twice a year they're trying to do events to raise funds, but it's really, what comes from that is really dwarfed by the employee campaign.
I can see where it's so much more efficient to make a presentation to a large organization. So I appreciate you coming here and sharing with us. We have a lot of retirees in this group, so a lot of people may not have that contact with the United Way that they had in the past. I think we've got time for maybe one more question. If anyone has anything else they want to share, I will point out as a neighbor, if any one of you are car people, one of David's hobbies is restoring, he and his son restore old classic Mustangs. And I just drool every time I drive by their house. It's like, not being a car guy myself, I'm like, wow. Mari, I think you want to say something?
Raised
I'm going along the vein of talking about retirees. Anyone can go to the United Way website and pledge a contribution. So
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And I will say the University of Missouri does a super job of reaching out to retirees, not only through Mira, but anybody that's in the area that's retired. And I know Shelter has done some of that too. So some of the companies in that do a concerted effort to reach out to their retirees and that, but we can do a much better job of it without a doubt.
Maybe if we find